I would like now to give the floor to His Excellency Yousuf bin Alawi bin Abdallah, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs of Oman. You have the floor, Excellency.
سيدة الرئيسة.
Madam President, at the outset, I would like to extend the warmest congratulations to you and your friendly nation on your election as President of the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly. And I assure you of the support of the permanent mission of the Sultanate of Oman to Your Excellency's efforts in order to ensure the success of the current session. We are also pleased to express our appreciation to your predecessor, His Excellency Mr. Miroslav Lajčák, for the manner in which he steered the work of the previous session and for the resolutions adopted during his tenure. I would also like to seize this opportunity to commend the efforts made by His Excellency, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, to strengthen the role of the organization and develop its mechanisms so as to achieve the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter. Madam President, the work of the United Nations must focus on facing challenges, settling international disputes and conflicts, and achieving peace. Hence, in the spirit of my country's firm belief that dialogue and negotiations are the most convenient means of resolving differences, we stress that the Sultanate of Oman will spare no effort to support the initiatives that will achieve peace and spread security and stability in the Middle East and the world. We consider that peace is a central building block for stability and development. We hope that member countries shall cooperate within new perspectives consistent with the principles of good neighborliness, respect for national sovereignty, and the non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. Madam President, the Palestinian question is the central cause for the Middle East. Therefore, the cooperation of the international community in creating a conducive environment that helps parties involved end the conflict is considered as a matter of particular strategic urgency. We think that despite the difficult current situation and the stalemate in the dialogue process, however, it is convenient to create favorable conditions for positive discussions between Palestinians and Israelis to reach a comprehensive settlement based on the two-state solution. For if the Palestinian state is not established, there will be no end to the cycle of violence and terrorism. The Sultanate of Oman is willing to make every possible effort to restore optimism in order to reach a comprehensive agreement, taking into account the future of peaceful coexistence in the Middle East, particularly between Palestinian and Israeli generations. For achieving a peaceful environment, Madam President, as I am speaking about the Middle East, and I am talking about Palestinian and Israeli generations, I believe it is important to achieve a peaceful environment between Palestinians and Israelis because it is essential to establish peace in the region. Therefore, we call on the countries of the world, particularly the United States, which plays an essential role in achieving peace and stability in the world, to consider the future of this cause from the perspective of supporting peace efforts and facilitating the work of international organizations. You must not sacrifice peace. Madam President, the suffering of the Republic of Yemen and the humanitarian and economic situation is due to the collapse of the infrastructure and health, education, and other crucial services that affect the day-to-day life of citizens, as well as the spread of diseases and the insufficient medical treatment and medicine. Therefore, we must all double our efforts to help Yemen. The international community has to adopt a humanitarian project that enables access to humanitarian aid by the Yemeni people in different provinces and facilitating the use of airports and ports for that end, because the dire humanitarian situation in Yemen requires taking such measures. In this context, my country welcomes efforts by the United Nations and the countries of the Arab Coalition to establish a humanitarian medical airlift to patients with critical conditions so that they can receive proper medical treatment via scheduled flights under the auspices of the United Nations and in collaboration with the Yemeni parties. My country also supports the efforts of the Special Envoy to Yemen, Mr. Martin Griffith, and we call on facilitating his mission for holding meetings and consultations with all Yemeni parties and facilitating their travel to participate in such meetings. We believe that the political solution should take into account the reality on the ground in Yemen, and that all Yemeni parties and political forces in Yemen and abroad should be given a chance to determine a prosperous future of their country. I would like to stress that the facilities and humanitarian assistance provided by the Sultanate of Oman to the brotherly Yemeni people will continue, and that land, sea, and air entry and exit points between the Sultanate of Oman and Yemen, which is the only available means for the brotherly Yemenis to cross and interact with the outside world, these shall remain open on grounds of brotherly and neighborly considerations, deep historical and social ties between Omani and Yemeni peoples, and because we are deeply touched by the humanitarian suffering of the Yemeni people. We hope that this effort in Syria and other countries, these efforts that are joint between countries, we hope that they will continue. We would also like to laud the efforts of the Special Envoy to Syria, Mr. Staffan de Mistura, to help Syrian parties develop constitutional foundations and build on what has been accomplished in Geneva, Astana, and Sochi to stop the war and reach a national reconciliation that ends the conflict. Madam President, my country would like to welcome the positive developments in the African Horn region and the understandings reached by states in the region, which will result in restoring confidence and ending differences. We welcome the efforts of the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the pivotal role played by his country, which shall contribute to achieving security and stability in the African Horn. In conclusion, my country renews its call on all countries of the world to adhere to the principles of the United Nations Charter and the international law and resolve differences through peaceful means without resorting to war given its tragic fallout, so that the peoples of the world would enjoy security, stability, development, and prosperity. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency Yousuf bin Alawi bin Abdallah, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs of Oman. Thank you, Excellency. I would like now to give the floor to Her Excellency Sushma Swaraj, Minister for External Affairs of India.